Hi, you made it to my channel, Niche Gaming. Today we're going to talk about the international Fleetstar F2070A. This was an early 60s, early 70s heavy-duty truck. In fact, the entire Fleetstar series was, and this particular variation was one of the most powerful of the Fleetstars. I think the only thing that was a little more powerful was the F2090A, if I remember correctly from my research, but F2070A was one of the most powerful, and that's the one they selected for SnowRunner. And this was most frequently used for commercial logistics, but it was capable of everything that a typical heavy-duty truck can handle. Your typical dump trucks, fire engines, farming applications, etc. Since it's a heavy-duty hauler, that was the most common use and most frequently on the highway. In SnowRunner, this truck is found in the garage in Michigan's first map. Completely damaged, except the body is 100%. Obviously, if you know my playthroughs, I do all of the scouting first. And that's important because what that does is allows you to get all the upgrades that are available for that particular Michigan region, or if you're doing Alaska or whatever. So get all the upgrades that are available for that region. You could even try to do scouting outside other regions, but that goes, I think, a little too far, and it's just too grueling to just do scouting to all the regions because you don't know everything that's about that region. You don't know where the fuel is going to be. You don't know a lot of things. So you want to have all your trucks in the same region, or at least a fleet there to support both the scouting and, of course, the heavy-duty hauling and tasks and everything else. But the scouting part should come first. So if you're working Alaska, do the scouting first. So doing the scouting, you get all the upgrades. You get the all-wheel drive, you get the diff lock, you get the race suspension, everything else from Michigan, and pretty early in the map. I think diff lock you have to wait a little bit, or maybe diff lock comes available. I'm not even sure that's an upgrade. But regardless, what you do is like what a lot of people will do. So it will be a good pro tip for you. What a lot of people will do, they'll go to the service trailer that you get early in Michigan, right in your garage, and they'll take that service trailer and just repair the entire truck. But the thing is, when you upgrade, you're basically replacing the broken engine or broken whatever. I always like to use the trucks at their best, so I'm going to upgrade the engine right away. And if you know my New Game Plus rules, you know that I have access to the engine. You just have to be willing to pay for it, and that can get quite pricey. So whatever you don't find, you end up having to pay for in terms of upgrades. So you do find the all-wheel drive upgrade. That's right in the garage, and then you find the race suspension as well, so you don't have to pay for those. And diff lock, I think, comes switchable. Regardless, what you do is you first upgrade everything that is upgraded. So you end up upgrading everything. You end up changing the tires. I changed it to the wrong ones. I changed it to the all chain, but you really should change it to the Offroad AWD 2. You upgrade the engine to the highest one. You upgrade. You change the all-wheel drive. So everything is changed. You don't need to repair all the stuff. You end up only having to repair the fuel tank. So once you repair the fuel tank, your truck is at 100%, and then you fuel it up and you're ready to go. So anyway, in real life, this truck was a highway truck, but had off-road uses, and it's a typical heavy-duty truck. And it with the engine upgrade and the tires upgrade and all-wheel drive and diff lock, you end up turning this into a decent off-road hauler, which is the most frequent use in SnowRunner. That's all your trucks. So pretty much all of your trucks have to be converted to heavy off-roaders, mudders, SnowRunners. The Fleetstar is the first such truck you encounter, and it's a staple for the fleet in most beginner playthroughs. I'll explain what I mean by beginner playthroughs later. Now let's talk about the dimensions and design of this truck. The dimensions: length 8.3 meters, width 2.4 meters, and the weight 11,023 pounds. That's 5.5 tons roundabout. And the body balance, I've given a rating as below average. Now, most probably to the width of just 2.4 meters and the fact that its power to weight ratio is very high, that does affect the body balance. I mean, this truck is quite tipsy and unstable. The fact that it's so fast and has a very good power to weight ratio because it's much lighter that does affect its chance to tip over, and because you'll get more careless and you'll drive faster, you try to cut corners faster, all that stuff. So it'll be a nice smooth drive, but then it's that much more tipsy and that much more the tendency to tip right over. And of course the width is small. So in real life, to be quite honest, on the typical commercial highway, you're not going to be driving most of your hauling trucks on uneven land because it's just too risky for most of them. You would only be specialized trucks. But converting this to a typical off-roader, I mean, that's its only use in SnowRunner. That's all SnowRunner is, off-roading and heavy mudding and snow running. You can't really use trucks or heavy-duty haulers you need for all of your tasks. You need that functionality. So because of that, this truck becomes quite unstable. In real life, you just simply have the power-to-weight ratio. That would be great. It's great for fuel efficiency, it's great for everything. But the power-to-weight ratio can be a disadvantage, especially on uneven terrain. And of course the width. Both of those contribute to this body balance being terrible. For SnowRunner standards, of course. So I give it a rating of below average. The weight is amongst the lowest of the heavy-duty haulers, which allows, as I mentioned, the power-to-weight ratio to be very high, which is great for straight road hauling, but not so much for uneven land. The drivetrain options include all-wheel drive and low-gear diff lock, and that's pretty standard for all of these heavy-duty trucks. You use the off-road gearbox, of course, that way you get your low-gear options and one high-gear option, and both of which are used with all of your haulers. Whenever you're going uphill, but not too much uphill, but especially on road, let's say there's a road in Smithville Dam, for example, and you're going uphill, you want to switch to high gear option where you don't need your low gear options and your diff lock and everything to move around. Then you might as well just switch to high gear. That way you can continue. And then there are many times with those options that your auto will eventually shift back down to low gears because you're going uphill. So the high gear option is very good for that. When you don't need to stop, you don't need to go through really heavy mud, but maybe it's uphill a little bit, or maybe it's through some heavy terrain, off-road terrain, just switch to high gear, you'll be all right. Heavy mud or anything like that, switch right to low gears, and of course turn your diff lock and all-wheel drive on if they're not already on, and use low plus, low minus, low regular as you need. But of course you have the all-wheel drive switchable, and you get that early in the game, and I believe you get the diff lock standard. It comes switchable, or you find it. Either way, you get it for free. So the configurations are your 6x4, 6x6. Configurations are based on pretty much all of these heavy duty haulers, or any hauler in this game and in real life, will always be the rear tandem axle. It will be your drivetrain will start there. It would be a rear wheel drive or rear tandem axle drive. So that's where all the engine sends its power. Once you switch to all-wheel drive, the trucks that have that available, the front 2 wheels or 4 wheels, depending on how large of a truck we're dealing with, it'll get that power as well. It'll help move the truck up or through heavy terrain, off-roading terrain. So all-wheel drive, very important. So 6x4 standard, your rear tandem axle is the one that's driving the truck. And then of course you can turn it to 6x6 by switching all-wheel drive on. And of course the diff lock is switchable only in low gears. Now, as with all trucks in SnowRunner, you don't need to concern yourself with a 13-speed transmission that this truck has in real life. Obviously, this game changes gears automatically, except when you need to use your low gear and your high gear. As for the off-roading tires, it's similar to all of the heavy-duty classes. All of the heavy-duty classes have the same basic setup, just with different size tires and sometimes a few variations. In this one, you get a 45-inch off-road UOD2. Standard rating 0.8, 3.0, 1.9. That's 0.8 in the asphalt, 3.0 off-road, and 1.9 for mudding, which is a little bit above average, which is pretty standard for all of these. That's the one you want to go with. And then of course there's a chained UAD 3 all chains. Gives you a little bit better than the asphalt 1.2. Same in the off-road 3.0, but a lot worse in mud. That's 1.3. I made the mistake in my playthrough for all of my hauling trucks because I didn't know about the map runner stats. I made the mistake of just getting the chain. I was like, okay, because it shows like good or excellent in off-road and good in mudding, whatever. It shows the same in both tire options, but it's actually not the same. The game itself within the typical user interface doesn't show you that. But when you look at the map runner stats and you practically use it, you'll see the off-road does give you better performance. In off-road UOD 2 gives you better performance in the mud. So that's what you want to use. I had that disadvantage because I didn't know about it, and I just did chain tires with all of my heavy-duty haulers. But the UOD2 do significantly better in mud, and the UAD3, the chain tires, are required for icy regions in addition to giving you more control on roads. It's a pretty reasonable steering and control for a heavy-duty class truck. The steering is short to medium turning radius, so that's great. With most of the heavy-duty trucks, you're going to end up getting at least medium turning radius, but it has a shorter turning radius than most heavy-duty trucks. Probably owing to smaller size, but whatever it is, the steering is pretty good. And the control of the truck, even when you try to, there's less chances of jackknife accidents. The truck just gives you a little bit better control. If it weren't tipsy, I would use this as a staple, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Fuel consumption is reasonable, probably owing most to the power to weight ratio. The fuel tank is pretty standard. I mean, it's not high like some of the other heavy duty and big haulers you're going to get, big rig trucks, but it's only 240 liters. So pretty standard fuel tank for your lower end heavy duty trucks or average heavy duty trucks. That's what it gives you, but it gives you good fuel efficiency. So it tops out at a level 17.8 liters per minute. That's with the off-road gearbox, all-wheel drive on, diff lock on, under heavy load on off-road terrain. So when you're pulling stuff and everything, you try to get the max consumption, so it levels out at a 17.8 liters per minute, which is better than pretty much all of your haulers. Of course, in all cases, consumption depends upon damage status, terrain, gearbox, and load. Carried on rear tandem axle plus haul trailers, and spikes can go over the stable rating, but I only mentioned the stable rating so you know, okay, this is what I'm going to be using at max 17.8 liters per minute with this truck. The truck is later converted into a fuel carrier, so I'll talk about that in a minute, but that it's a fuel carrier later, so in addition to the 240 liters, you get the 1800 liters. But then you're not looking at that 1800 liter fuel carrier external add-on as fuel for this truck itself. Although it can be used for that, it's primarily used to fuel other trucks. Now, unfortunately, SnowRunner doesn't allow upgrade, or there's no upgrades to fuel tanks. I mean, there are fuel add-ons for certain type of trucks, but there is no upgrade to the existing fuel tank. So for the Fleetstar, it's 240 liters, so that's what it's going to be. I mean, if it had certain add-ons, you would have those add-ons. Now you have external add-ons like the 1800 liter thing, but then, that completely changes what you can use the truck for. So then it becomes like a fuel carrier if you're going to take that large of a. So there are other trucks that have different type of fuel add-ons. Very few hauling trucks that have those type of capabilities or extra add-ons. But this truck essentially, if you look at compared to real life, I mean, it's quite a shame. I was looking at the upgrade. So it comes with a 50 gallon, which is actually less than the 240 liters. It has so many different upgrades. The F2070A Fleetstar, if we look at the truck brochures for optional equipment, my God, there's one upgrade, or it looks like the biggest upgrade available. 107 gallon left and 63 gallon right steel center step safety tanks. So basically, you're looking at 170 total gallons. When you do the math, I think 1 gallon is like 3.78 liters or something like that. Or 3.87, whatever. And when you do the math, it comes out to like 640, or let me just do the math real quick. 170, 643.52 liters. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's a lot of. Now you don't get many trucks in this game, even the big hauling trucks or big rigs, that'll give you that many liters. But that option was available in real life. In this game, unfortunately, you don't get to upgrade the tanks. There are no different configurations for fuel tanks. So if the truck model has 240 liters, it's going to have 240 liters, and that's what it's going to have, apart from any other add-ons that you can have. You don't get to change the tanks or the size of the tanks or anything like that, or the position of the tanks. I haven't seen any truck in SnowRunner that gives you that option. It gives you typical heavy-duty power. We'll talk about the real-life engine first. The real-life engine was a Cummins NTC 335, diesel inline 6-cylinder, 14-liter displacement, 335 horsepower. That's why it's called the NTC 335. Gives you 335 horsepower, 890 pound-foot torque at 1600 RPM. I'm reading a lot of these stats straight from the brochures that are available for the optional upgrades, the highest level upgrade it has for engines. And that gives you a max gross combination weight of 79,000 pounds. Pretty standard for heavy duty. Your typical commercial uses, that's what it was used for. So you're driving on the highway or whatever, but it was used for some farming applications and others. But regardless of what you use it for and how you use it, max gross combination weight is going to be 79,000 pounds, which is a little under 40 tons. The game engine is called a Westline. The highest upgrade, of course, is called a Westline V6 2350T. Very low SnowRunner mass as well as real life mass. It's 6,300 mass rating and 155,000 torque. Again, those are map runner stats. The power to weight ratio is the big plus for this truck. So early in the game when you're doing certain things, or even throughout the game, even as a fuel carrier, if you want to use it to pull anything. Let's say you're using a fuel carrier as an add-on, and then you add on to you attach a service trailer. It will pull the service trailer like no big deal, because it certainly has that power to weight ratio. It's very good for that. I mean, that's one of the best big advantages of this truck. Again, if it weren't for how tipsy it is, it would be a staple to my fleet throughout. But because of the tipsy nature for this SnowRunner standards, below average body balance, I end up having to convert this into and can then use other trucks, because I get so many other trucks in my Michigan playthrough. Most of them are found, a couple that are bought, and then I just don't need this truck for the heavy duty hauling applications. Available for this truck are the typical heavy duty external add-ons, which gives you a large variety of options. This flexibility makes this truck versatile and dynamic, usable for many contracts, tasks, and contests. However, this truck suffers because of the lack of body balance, its tendency to tip over. If not for that, it's a great truck for the early game. Once you find better, use it as a fuel carrier. It offers the LC 3.8, I think it's called, that's what it's called, the loading crane, the typical loading crane, plus external add-on, plus trailer hookup available. Now what this means basically is there are many heavy-duty trucks and other trucks that you can't really have a loading crane plus an external add-on plus a trailer for whatever reason. It's just the configuration of where its winch is attached, or the trailer is attached. And if you use, like with certain ones, you can use the flatbed external add-on and the loading crane plus a trailer. In other cases, you can only use, regardless of which one you use, which external add-on you use, whether it's a sideboard bed or the flatbed plus a loading crane, you won't be able to attach the trailer. And in certain ones, like a medium logging truck, let's say with a Caterpillar CT681, if you want to use it for medium logging, you can attach the medium logging trailer for whatever reason. So certain trucks, because of their configuration, you can't attach, but this one does not have any of those restrictions. Although it's not ideal for those, but hey, it can attach it. It gives you no restrictions on the LC loading crane, the early loading crane you can get for this truck. You can equip that in addition to a sideboard bed add-on, or the flatbed add-on, plus a sideboard bed trailer. So you can take 4 slots of cargo at a time, and it can haul it just fine, assuming you have the all-wheel drive on and the diff lock on. So you can go through the heavy mudding and everything else that the game makes you go through, uphill on off-road terrain with rocks in the way and all that kind of stuff. The LC loading crane does make it more unstable. All trucks, the LC loading crane is a little heavier of the different add-ons, and it does affect your power to weight ratio as pretty much anything you add on. Most of your external add-ons will affect your power to weight ratio. It'll decrease it because you're adding weight. So LC loading crane adds weight, and it also adds instability, especially for trucks like this because it's the lower width. And in real life, you didn't see cranes attached to this truck at all. Like any of the pictures that I saw, it was more of a pure hauler than it was, crane plus external add-on plus trailer. But the game does give you that option. So that's great for that flexibility. Then your typical heavy-duty external add-on, it allows you to use it for various different contracts, tasks, and contests. Whatever you need it for, it gives you that flexibility. That's good for any of the heavy-duty trucks that gives you full options. It makes the truck more usable, more dynamic, more versatile, good for the truck. But while you can attach something, like we saw with the International Loadstar 1700, yeah, you can technically add the loading crane, but it makes the truck unusable. Now, in this case, it doesn't make the truck unusable to make the loading crane, add the loading crane. You can use it. You can use the loading crane plus external add-on plus trailer hookup just fine. But better to drive it on straight roads. If you get to really bouncy or uneven land, much greater chance of tipping over, especially with the loading crane. So it's already not great body balance, and then when you add the loading crane, you're asking to get tipped over quite frequently. So I don't use it. That's one of the reasons why I abandoned using it as my main hauler. So it's not a huge staple, but I use it early in the game. So when you're using in Michigan, it's one of the first trucks you get and use. So I would use it for that. And then as soon as you get your better trucks, convert it right away to a fuel carrier. Since it's already an off-roading truck, by the time you convert it to a fuel provider, it is one of your trucks that can go just about anywhere to supply fuel to other trucks. Whereas your highway trucks like your Transtar 4070 whatever A, that one cannot be converted to off-roaders, so they're restricted to the main roads. Whereas this one, it can go anywhere. So that's it. This truck is fairly straightforward. Everyone has used it. This is your typical beginner playthrough. The reason I mentioned the beginner part earlier, I was like, okay, most playthroughs are going to start with this, but once you learn how to use the other trucks and once you have the right new game plus options and you know how to play SnowRunner properly, and then you're going to use the better trucks to do all your stuff in Michigan, and you'll end up converting. I don't recommend selling it. I think it is still very useful, but I would convert it to that kind of setup where you have a fuel carrier add-on and a service trailer attached, so you can go anywhere and repair stuff, and also, of course, provide fuel as necessary. And that's my verdict for this truck. And don't forget to check out my rescue of the White Western Star 4964 and the rescue of the International Transtar 4070A. I did that with this truck. That's one of the huge advantages of its power to weight ratio. Great for rescuing trucks. And because it's already converted, hey, why not use it for that purpose? You can just even take off its fuel. And you could do it with the other trucks as well. But any truck that has a high power to weight ratio is great. And this, of course, has the all-wheel drive and diff lock on, must be on, or available as you need it. One of the most useful trucks for that purpose. So I used it in Smithville Dam to rescue both of my trucks, both the White Western Star 4964 and the International Transtar 4070A. And I did all of that in my separate video, so you can check that footage out. Thanks for watching. Give me a like, share, subscribe if you liked it. You can share some comments about how you guys use your Fleetstar. This is your typical Fleetstar, typical heavy duty on early game Fleetstar. Everyone uses a Fleetstar. So this is the way I use it and the way I saw it, the struggles that I had with the Fleetstar. And that taught me what's the best way to use a Fleetstar. So, hey, give me a like, share, subscribe if you liked it. Thanks for watching.